Welcome to Unguarded, a podcast with myself, Joe Smith, incredible wife, Beck Smith, where every week we come together and we talk about relationships and life in every season. And it's been a minute, right?
It has.
We're back. We're here, a lot of traveling, a lot of crazy family stuff.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that sounds very dramatic, but just we have 3 of our kids' birthdays in December.
We do.
And so we're in the middle of like birthday planning and then birthday planning and then
birthday planning, just like
celebration birthdays at the school.
Someone asked me today, like, "Oh, I'm sorry I didn't make it to the birthday party." And I'm like,
Which
one? I can't. Please tell me which one you're talking about, or else I don't know.
It's wild, but we love our kids. Happy birthday to all 3 of them. But we did this to ourselves. We're the ones that.
Yeah, but I'm like, okay, I'm not a planner, obviously. When we found out that Rocky, our last one, was going to be born in December, I was like, have I not learned? Have we not learned? Like,
just do the math.
Just do the math and don't try to have a baby in February, March.
But hey, we're here.
Somehow we're really.
So this month becomes all celebrations, all right? But on top of that, 2 of our kids are also in the middle of like crazy soccer tournaments.
Yes.
Which when we signed them up, it was like, oh, this will be a cool extracurricular activity. They'll be active and, they'll have some games and stuff. But then they're doing something really frustrating and they're like really good.
They're winning.
And they're winning.
Their team's winning.
And they just keep advancing and advancing. So it's like last weekend we had 3 games for Zai and his team and they did so well, they advanced. And then now, tomorrow, our other son, Indigo, has 3 games in his tournament. And if they do well, they advance. So
and they both advance to Sunday. I mean, it's crazy.
Just a lot. But we love it. We do love the chaos, right?
Yeah.
And though, we forgot also.
We thrive in it, I think. Even if there's sometimes we're like sinking and then we just like.
Yeah, because when you're drowning, you just decide, do I drown or do I become a submarine?
Yeah.
And so we're in submarine season.
That's a good one. I like it.
Oh, thank you. Come up with them on occasion. But then also, me and Zai went to Brazil.
Yes.
Which, I don't think we filmed an episode since we were in Brazil, which was pretty incredible. Like I will remember that trip for the rest of my life. I think he will too. First time going with just one of the kids and having like a daddy and me, it was a work trip, so he came with me. And Brazilians are insane. Like if you're watching from Brazil, which there's so many of you because we see the numbers, y'all are insane. You're ridiculous. You're in all the best ways, but you're wild. We didn't go to bed before 3 a.m. not one night while we were there. Dinner started midnight. They'd be ordering espresso shots. After dinner, it's 1 a.m.
Stay awake, yeah.
I'm like, what are y'all doing? But we had so much fun. Went with Marcos and Pedro as well.
Yeah.
Who are, 2 of our dear friends who are also Brazilian. And so it was incredible to have like a boys trip.
I was going to say, I loved that Zai went on a guy's trip.
For sure.
He felt like he was one of them. And he really elevated, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he just turned 10. And then we noticed a little bit of even coming back. He's holding his head up a little higher, standing a little taller. Because there's something about when you have a little independence. And we wanted to instill that in our kids, right? That was one reason why we planned this. Hey, let's take Zai, on a trip. You're gonna have trips where you're gonna go with them by yourself, or take Rocky on your first girls trip.
Yeah, that's true.
When she's old enough, because there's something really unique about raising not just a child, but you're preparing to raise a young man and a young woman. And we wanted him to have some chops. And
I remember he got really stressed before leaving, and I was talking to him beforehand, and he was like, I'm gonna miss school, and he's the oldest, so he doesn't like missing out on school. Mm-hmm. And I love that about him. I love that he loves it. But I told him, I was like, this trip, Sai, is gonna define you as a person. So you have to go into it like, this is a trip of a lifetime. This is a gift that you get to do this. And it's not just about, sometimes, school is school. But this opportunity that you get to go on is going to be life-changing. And I think it's really changed who he is. And I love that we probably won't even see all of the change yet.
Sure.
But it's like implanting into his soul. Like, I love that he's curious about cultures that are different from him. He loves anything Asian, Korean, Japanese.
All things Asian.
All
yeah.
things.
I mean, remember his birthday last year, he wanted Korean barbecue.
Yeah.
And then New Year's Day, we're like, we should do something special. He wanted ramen, so we went to ramen.
Yes.
And then his birthday this year, he wanted sushi.
Sushi, yeah.
So I'm like, hey, you know you're black, right? Like, you know, no one in our family is Asian, but I do, what I love about is, and we talk a lot, I have a resonance with Asian culture as well. I have a resonance with the globe as a whole. That's what we have always had a value of, is cultures and people who are different than us. And so I love naturally, you know, that has happened in his own life. And even on the plane ride to Brazil, it's hilarious. We were sitting, you know, I told you this already, but we were sitting next to this girl who was Japanese.
No, you never told me the story, actually. You told me you were going to tell me.
I didn't tell you the story.
No.
Oh, snap. I don't know. Well, here you go. Live, exclusive on the pod. So we're on the plane.
Yeah.
And it's me, and then Zai's in the middle, and then there's this girl who was sitting next to him. And, you know, for half the flight, you know, we don't know each other, you know, and also we're pretty exhausted. It was
a red eye.
No, it wasn't a red eye, actually.
But it was a late night, wasn't it? You left at 7.
No. The plane left at like 1. So it wasn't red eye. Anyhow, whatever reason, we're not talking. So like halfway through the flight, Zai like finally falls asleep, and his legs are like all like flapping on her. And I'm trying to like, I'm so sorry, you know? And she's like, it's okay. Don't even worry about it. I was like, okay. So, you know, because he couldn't get comfortable. He finally does. Well, then when he wakes up, then we feel like we had kind of broken the ice with the legs on her lap. And so we just start talking, where are you from? What are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm from Japan. And she was headed to like this conference in Peru, I think. So, oh, cool. And I'm like, Zai, you love Japan, right? Talk about Japan for a moment. Yeah. He was a little shy. But then she's like, oh yeah, do you know any like Japanese words? And he's like, I know a few, like konnichiwa, and, you know, and she's like, oh, your pronunciation.
Yes, his pronunciation
incredible.
Very good.
And what else do you know? And he just starts like talking about all these words he knows, like, just impressing her, talking about culture, like things that are Japanese culture that, you know, you could tell because she's from Japan.
Yeah.
You know, and things that he referenced, she was very impressed.
Wow.
So then they just start having a full-on like conversation about all things Japan, talking about cherry blossoms. She's saying what regions that you should go. He's like, oh yeah, I heard about that when my friend went there. And I'm watching my 9-year-old just rizz up this like 29, 30-year-old girl. And so that I begin telling the story in Brazil when we get there.
Yeah.
So I meets this, you know, girl, her name was Miki, shout out Miki. And I was like, yeah, he's, you know, 9-year-old. He's got game, more game than his dad ever had. And he's just like, you know, we're laughing about it. And all the guys are like fist bumping, good job. But then after like the 4th or 5th time I told it, when he goes in front of everybody, he said, Dad, if you want me to like tell you about when I actually have a crush on a girl, then you probably shouldn't like act like this. And we all were like, oh snap.
No
just got
way.
schooled by a 9-year-old. And I said, buddy, you're right. 100%. I apologize.
Dang,
you know,
babe.
I will stop and I'll make sure that this won't happen again. So he's like, okay. He's like, I'm not mad, but he was like so matter of fact. Just like, if you want me to talk to you about girls.
Like, stop doing
later,
this. Stop parading my story.
Yeah. You know, it's my story to tell, not yours, Dad. But anyhow, it was such a fun time. But yeah, it's good.
One thing I loved, I was FaceTiming, when we were FaceTiming you, he was behind you, like you're in the hotel room, and he was like stroking your head or something. And I'm like, what? I've never seen him so affectionate to you. Because usually, I guess, if I'm there, he'll be affectionate to me.
Sure.
And it was the sweetest, the most beautiful thing I've seen, is watching him be so close to you. And he felt like he was connected to you. And I've never seen him like that before. I had the most, like, immense amount of joy just even knowing that he was going to experience something crazy. Like when you guys FaceTimed us on the beach and it looked beautiful. I've never felt that before. Like as a mom going like, oh my gosh, he's about to experience something that I know is going to be life-changing. In another, like to be in another country is so cool. It's so beautiful. And I just knew, oh my gosh, how is this giving me more joy than probably if I was there too?
Sure. Yeah.
That's crazy. I was like, wow, I've never felt this before, like with so much excitement for him and not thinking there was not one bit of like jealousy, like I want to be there. I just knew this is your trip and I'm so excited for it.
Yeah.
Like, well, I've changed, I feel like.
Yeah, he was very, very powerful.
And I've changed.
Oh, you've changed.
I've changed because I'm like, I don't think, back in the day, I think I would have thought, I want to be a part of it. I don't want to be excluded.
Yeah. Well, we did talk, we spoke on Sunday at Mosaic last week, and it was very fun. Go check that out. Mosaic YouTube.
We talked about joy.
We talked about joy, but one of the things I thought was really interesting with joy, I feel like it's connected to what you're saying, is there's moments in our lives when we have to bring joy. Yeah. Like that's our responsibility. And I think that is how we can shift environments. That's how we can elevate rooms, is we bring joy. And we bring to the room what it cannot bring on its own. But then there's other moments in our lives when you just need to be captured by joy, when you need to be forever changed by it, where it's not necessarily an internal expression, but it's actually an external experience. And I think that's the beauty of Christmas. That's the beauty of the story of Jesus, is that it was the world being absolutely overwhelmed with the power of joy. And I think that is actually sometimes a layer of joy that we miss out on. Yeah. I need to change that. Pastor Aaron told me I use sometimes too much. So I'm course correcting. That one of the ways that you experience joy at its finest is when it's not necessarily in you or for you or because of you, but it's that you can experience it in the world around you. And I love that you were able to celebrate that inside.
Well, I think like joy can be unexpected, and maybe when you love something so much, it really isn't about you, and that you can find so much joy in other people's happiness. Yep. Like I think that maybe that's the thing, is like parenting is powerful because it teaches you to love someone more than you even love yourself, and that you want them to win way more. Like I think about my mom, how she used to say to me, she's like, I want you to succeed, and I want you to stand on my shoulders and go way past me. And I love that she kept saying it because it made me believe I could. Yeah. And then now I'm like finally getting that. Now that maybe it's like seeing something like a child, because he's independent of me. Sure. Now, being now 10, him experiencing something independent of me, and then, but still feeling an immense amount of joy, even though I wasn't there. Like, I don't even know what that was, but it's just like literally unexpected burst of joy inside of me.
What brought you joy?
That he was going to experience something so life-changing, so he was going to experience a gift that I knew was coming, but he didn't know was coming. I think that's probably why Christmas should be about that joy, is that you get to buy a gift and you know that this person's going to love it, and it's coming to them. You know, and that's why I guess, you know, this was that verse that says it's better to give than to receive. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know about that, because I love receiving.
Keep it real.
Yeah, tell me that I get something out of this. And then those are the moment with Zai, just on the phone with you, and that unexpected joy inside of me, I was like, oh my gosh, it's got nothing to do with me. Like, this is a gift that I know God's going to give to him. And it was an overwhelming joy, an overwhelming like mixture of gratitude and like just knowing that it was coming for him. Like, you love someone so much that you want them to win. Like now I get it, even with parents that we're friends with that have older kids, and they're like, it almost like we're in the thick of it because we've got young kids, but it almost gets harder as they get older because now they're independent of you, and now you just want them to experience that joy that you want it so badly for them, you know?
So you said you changed. So what? How did you encounter joy before, or experience joy, and then how that changed in you in this moment or this season?
Well, I didn't think that someone else receiving something where I'm not receiving it would bring me joy. So sometimes, okay, here's an example. Like when we started dating and then first like newly married.
There's two different things. First started dating and newly married. That's
okay.
That's
well,
a big
I feel
time
like it's
gap.
a whole season of me going, I want what you get. Like for you to receive something.
When we were dating, or when we were newly married. That's
Let's
2
just
years.
say newly married.
Okay, newly married. Great. Just setting up timelines for
No,
people.
I'm just saying it's for both, but
Okay.
sure. Maybe it's more for newly married because now we're connected. And you always said to me, like, it's never expect to be in the room, but it's a gift to be invited into the room. And so it took me a really long time to like be okay with not being invited into the room and really letting that go. Because I think obviously I was very controlling over that, and it was all about me. It was very self-centered.
Okay.
And then you kept saying, but your posture was always like, well, if I get the opportunity, I would, but then you would get the gift and you would get invited. Obviously, I felt like you definitely deserved it over me and many times. But it was very hard for me to reconcile, like, okay, but why do you keep getting it? So I truly think that your posture towards something is what sets you up for the win.
Yeah.
That when you're so hands off, like you do what you're supposed to do, you do what you need to do in life. Like you serve, you give, you love, you work hard. And then you don't ever have an sense of entitlement to be in the room.
Yeah.
You just see it as a gift.
I think that's the little nuance shift. It's not that there's not an expectation or a hope.
Yeah.
There's rooms that I would love to be in. There's opportunities I would love to have.
Yeah.
But I feel like I did establish early on and learned that principle of the difference between like expectation and entitlement. You know, I do think it's the spirit of entitlement that can get us in trouble where then, you just think that, you think you deserve everything that may not necessarily have your name on it. And then when you aren't invited into spaces or opportunities, then bitterness and resentment takes root.
Yeah.
And that's the danger, you know? And also we have no control over what rooms we get invited into. We have no control over what opportunity. Only thing we have control over, do I work hard? Do I hustle? Do I put myself in position and have proximity to be seen? Yeah, and that was a shift I had to make, right?
Okay.
Is years ago, and it's still a journey. Thankfully, I'm further along now than I was when I started. But I didn't think I deserved to be in rooms. I didn't think I deserved to have opportunities. So I would work really hard and I would hustle, but nobody would ever know. Like I would do it on an island, and then think miraculously the stars would align, you know. And that was feedback I got early on in my leadership of, hey, you need to make sure that you're available, or not available. You're seen,
willing, and
you know, that you're just not always in the back because you're hiding.
Yeah.
There's a difference between hiding and hustling. You know, sometimes you got to hustle to be seen.
Yeah.
And to so that people can notice, oh, I need that person on my team. I need her on this project. I need her connected to this event because I've seen the evidence of what happens when he or she's involved.
Yeah.
You know, and I had that shift, I had that journey, and then I did feel like found that balance of everything is a gift. Every opportunity is a gift. And when I'm invited into something, when I'm given a chance, I'm so grateful and so thankful, but I don't hold anybody hostage with bitterness and resentment because they didn't give me something I felt like I deserved.
Yeah. Do you think there is something about that then, having being bitter and having resentment, that if it festers inside of you, then you can't experience joy? Possibly.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because joy and bitterness can't reside in the same like environment.
So it's like maybe that even if you're here and you're listening and you have bitterness, resentment towards something or somebody, then if you don't let it go, then it's like very hard for you to experience joy.
Yeah, you can't grab a hold of something when your fists are clenched. You know?
It's good.
And there could be joy and life and beauty so close to you.
Yeah.
Even within literal, like, you know, within your grasp.
Yeah.
But if you don't let go of things, you're never going to be able to grab a hold of the things that you desperately long for.
Dang, that's good.
And need. And that's why I think joy is a internal, you know, begins with an internal shift. You know, even years ago, I gave a message on joy, and it was literally just this acronym, just on you.
Yeah.
And that when you understand that in order to experience joy, it has to be just on you. It's not about what's happening around you. It's not external circumstances. It's not, you know, anyone else's responsibility. But that's the power of joy. It's the power of gratitude. And those people that live life to the fullest. You can have somebody who is in extreme poverty and full of joy. And you can have somebody who has everything they could ever want and is filled with joy, because it's an internal mechanism. It's not an external one.
Because I think what you hit on that is that it's about gratitude.
Yeah.
Because there's moments in my life, obviously, that when they've been the hardest, like losing my job or like not being on staff and then not being on staff here at Mosaic, like those were the hardest moments in the moment. But I remember thinking like, okay, so you can either hold bitterness and resentment towards a person just so you have someone to blame. And I remember that sneaking up on me and going like, oh my God, I'm mad at that person. I bet that person decided that. And then I realized like, oh shoot, this is how it starts. Like you hold on to that thought and then you circle it in your brain over and over and over, and then it takes root. And then you keep going through life blaming people for what happened in your life. But now years later, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a gift. Like if I could see it in a perspective of God, then I'm like, okay, if I lose my job, then it could be a gift because there's something else I'm supposed to do that's even more important, or that is just as equally important for my life. And now I'm like, okay, that makes sense, that the moment you forgive people and you don't hold any resentment and bitterness, then you have more room inside of your soul to have joy. Yeah. And I think that's why it's almost surprised me with Zai, is I was like, I think I've changed because there wasn't an ounce of, oh, well, why not me? And I think what you're really good at and you teach our kids so well is dealing with disappointment, that you can be disappointed about something, but you let it go.
Can you be disappointed and still joyful?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah? Your voice went up at the end.
Well, maybe that's what it is. It's like, okay, I'm disappointed that this didn't work out what I thought it did, what I thought it was going to work out. But having joy is believing in the future is going to be greater than now.
I think that's hope.
Yeah, that is hope. But
so I think joy, I'm just talking this out, I feel like joy has to exist in the present. You know, you could move and believe there's joy waiting for you in the future, but because I think
no, but I think there's a difference. It's like you have hope for the future, right? But because you have hope, you choose joy. Like I'm joyful.
You choose it in the moment, right?
Yes. But that's what I'm saying. I wasn't saying, you said, oh, that's hope. And I'm like, yeah, that is hope.
Come on.
But having joy, I love how recently River, every time we slightly raise our voice, and then I mean slightly, he says, stop fighting.
That's true. Not even raising voices too, we just disagree.
Yeah.
But which are ironically coming from the dragon River, who raises his voice and screams whenever he's mad. But anyhow, I thought it was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm saying the same thing. I'm saying, like, because you know joy is coming, you can have hope for the future because there's going to be other opportunities that come your way that will bring you joy, as well as choosing joy in the present.
But yeah, I just think it's an interesting conversation and an interesting thought to go, yeah, do we only discover joy in the wins?
Yeah.
Do we only discover joy when everything goes right, when the prayer is answered, when you book that gig, when you get the date?
Yeah.
Fill in the blank, whatever it is. But like, do we miss it because we only connect joy to the high moments in life?
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like, and it doesn't mean that you are ignorant to the fact of hardships or you're oblivious or, you know, you downplay. But I do think there could be something to a true layer of joy that we don't fully actualize, is joy in the struggles.
Yes.
Joy in the pain.
Okay.
You know, and this is something I have learned from Erwin being, you know, my boss, friend, mentor for 20 years, is that man just knows how to find joy in everything.
Yeah.
You know, like broke his elbow recently and is like talking about how incredible it's been meeting all these doctors and nurses and, you know, but I think that's a mindset that you have to choose.
Yeah.
And that is possible.
Well, I think that's interesting because the story that comes to my mind is when we were in the hospital with Rocky, and to set the quick backstory, right, that she got infant botulism, which is a very rare, I don't know if you call it disease, but infection or something.
Yeah.
Maybe disease.
Only doctors and people who watch Grey's Anatomy know what it is. Because, yeah, when it happened, all these people, oh, yeah, I watched that episode on Grey's Anatomy. I was like, okay,
really?
cool.
Someone said that to you?
Yeah, multiple people. Because apparently there was an episode.
Dang, let me get back to Grey's Anatomy
that
then.
dealt with botulism. Yeah. I mean, all 24 seasons, yeah.
I mean, I used to watch it, so I missed out on that particular episode. That would have been, like, really helpful. But so she got infant botulism, which attacks your body, your muscles, and starts paralyzing
organs,
muscles, everything. And I only noticed that something was very wrong because she stopped eating. She just wanted to sleep. She didn't cry. She didn't have a temperature, so I didn't really know that anything was wrong. I feel like I'm going into you're looking at me like you're giving too much detail.
No, just looking at you very lovingly.
Am I being Zai right now where he tells every detail of the story? Yes.
I didn't even have that thought, but you said I'm gonna tell a quick story, and then you stopped yourself because in your brain you're thinking I'm telling
a long story.
It's a long story. I never even thought that, but yeah.
Well, then I realized I was like, oh my gosh, maybe we should do a different episode where we actually talk about that one specific thing.
Possibly, but you're already in it. You're locked in. So
really?
Yeah, I mean, tell a story.
Okay. Well, didn't know that anything was seriously wrong, and I even told you, like, don't worry, keep working. You had to lead a Bible study here at Mosaic, and then, you know, shout out to my best friend Zoti, who was like, you should take her to the doctor. She does not look well. And then once we took her to the doctor, urgent care, she got rushed to the hospital because the oxygen levels were so low. But in 24 hours within the hospital, they didn't know what was going on with her. And she was deteriorating very quickly. Then they realized, like, oh, this could be infant botulism. They took us to urgent care, ICU at the Children's Hospital. All that to say is I remember walking into that room, and between one hospital, Huntington Hospital, which were amazing, Children's Hospital, she deteriorated even further. And she looked lifeless. Terrifying. Like, she couldn't, I don't even know if maybe she was like staring up at us, but it was like very weird and hard to watch her. We go into the ICU and then doctors just swarm us. We're like, whoa, what is happening? Like, they were waiting for her. I'm like, oh my gosh, is this like serious? Like, we didn't even realize until that very moment, oh, something is very serious here. And we were just like, okay, let's go to Children's Hospital. And then they were like, oh, we've been waiting for her. We knew of her case earlier on, and we've been trying to like figure out how we can help her. So the team, you know, circle her and like check her out, and they're like, okay, we do believe she has infant botulism. And the neuro team, is that? I think it was the neuro team. Yeah. Was like, hey, we want to like let you know what we're up against here. That she's very sick. We have to get her medicine, and we have to get it sent over from somewhere else immediately. And we want you to know that at this point, she could be here for weeks or she could be here for months. And we want to set you up for that. That this could be a long road of recovery. Mm-hmm. The moment, I just remember like the room was like getting darker. It was like heavy. And the moment they told us that, it was like my legs gave way. It was like everything in me just sank. We couldn't even look at each other because we knew I couldn't hold it anymore. And I was like, okay, thanks for letting us know, you know. We both go separate ways because we can't even handle it. And I call Zati and just cry. And then she's crying, and I'm like, we have to pray. Like, pray for her. And you call Erwin, thankfully. And all that to say, I just remember this being very heavy in that room and very like what's going to happen next? Like, we don't know. And we asked people to pray, and you decided like, okay, I'm going to put out a post and ask for people to pray because we need. Mm-hmm. And the next 24 hours is like crucial for her. And we don't want to intubate her, but the doctors wanted to intubate her. We didn't want her to be intubated. And I'm like, we need a miracle. And then people just started praying. We turned on worship music in the room. And I just remember this feeling like lifting, that heaviness that was weighing on me that felt so like squishing me to the ground just started like coming off me. Mm. And then there was warmth in the room all of a sudden. And then there was peace in the room. And then within those 24 hours, I felt like joy was coming into the room. And we started having like, okay, it's go time now. And we were like hanging out with the nurses. You know, like we filled that room with joy. And I felt like there was something that shifted because we were like, okay, we have to believe in the best, and we have to fight for her, and the only way we can fight for her is joy. Mm.
For sure, yeah. And joy, you do have to fight for it at times.
Yeah.
Because it is not something you stumble upon. It's not something that is you unwrap, you know, underneath the tree. It is actually the thing that you have to wrestle through. Mm-hmm. You have to see the obstacle. You have to see the challenge. You have to see the.
Well, you're living in it too.
Yeah. But you have to figure out, how do I see, you know, through the clouds, right? How do I see through? Use whatever imagery and metaphor you want. How do I see the forest through the trees? How do I see the trees through the forest? Whichever you want to choose, because. Joy has to be something that isn't just seen with your eyes, but it's actually experienced with your soul.
Wow.
Because life tells you so often there's nothing to be joyful about. Life will tell you that it's not worth it. Keep your, expectations low. It's like talking to somebody recently about that, where like, I don't even want to hope in a better future. I don't even want to like raise my expectations because I can't deal with the possibility of another disappointment.
Yeah.
Which I totally get. I resonate with that. I understand that reality. I just go, I don't like the world that creates. I don't like a world that is filled with disappointment. That disappointments and negativity are waiting for you. If they are, then can there be other things that are waiting for you as well?
Wow.
And I want to choose which one I'm going to fight for. And if there's nothing good waiting for me, I'd rather go out swinging, fighting to find something that brings beauty to my soul, that brings life to my life, as opposed to just throwing my hands up and going, it's not even worth believing.
Yeah. I think like in being in that room, like we could have just, like when you said like, oh, just go, okay, this is too hot, I give up. That's what's powerful, I guess, when it's for someone else, because you can't give up on someone else. Mm-hmm. So if we just gave out like, oh, this is too hot, what are we going to do? We're done. This is the worst thing that could have ever happened to us. But then we have to choose something bigger than us. And we have to choose to not listen to what the doctors, not to say that we're listening to the doctors were fighting for her too, but they're, what they believed would happen. We had to say, okay, we're choosing not to believe that that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I remember like the German doctor was like, oh, you were going to have to intubate her. Like she is very seriously ill and there's very unlikely that she'll make through the night without being intubated. Mm. And I was like, okay, I get it. If you need to intubate her, we're with you. We're not going to stop you from doing it because it's safe for her life.
Sure.
But we want you to know that you don't know our Rocky. Because this girl, she can fight. And I loved it. I was like literally telling this guy like he cares. But I felt like it cared to Rocky that even if she didn't realize we were declaring something over her life. Mm-hmm. And we're like, no, you don't know Rocky. And maybe, I don't know. This just hit me like maybe someone's listening and they need to know this. Someone's fighting for them. Mm-hmm. Like they have a God that's like, you don't know this girl. She's a fighter. Like nothing's gonna get her down. Mm-hmm. Like whatever circumstances you're fighting that feels so heavy, that feels like you can't lift it and you can't carry it, that God is literally speaking over you and saying, nope, you can't hurt this girl. This girl is mine. This boy, he's mine, and nothing's going to get him down. Like you can try to steal his joy by putting these circumstances around him or her, but I'm telling you now that joy isn't because of the circumstances. Mm-hmm. Like declaring truth over your life. And maybe if you feel like you can't hear it from God, to say it over yourself. Mm. Because I guess that's what we did over Rocky. It was like declaring truth over her. And that's what made her fight. Mm. And this girl, she definitely fought. I mean, it was a combination of people praying around the world.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we had messages from people that we didn't know.
I mean, most were people we didn't know.
Yeah. And I could tell you, I was like, I feel like people are praying, not just like saying we're sending prayers, but they were literally praying. Like you could feel the weight of prayers coming, flooding into the room, covering us and making us stronger. Yeah. And making us see like, this is not going to go down like this. Like we're choosing a new reality. Mm. We're choosing a different mind shift. And this is what we're going to choose, is that she's going to get better and she's going to get through tonight and she's not going to be intubated and this is what's going to happen. Sure, and yeah. she got through that first night. Mm-hmm. And I remember the doctor came in the next morning and was like, we're like, oh my gosh, like, is she okay? Like, what do you think? And he was like, I am absolutely shocked that this girl was not intubated last night. And I was like, oh, really? And he said, yeah, because I didn't want to tell you last night because I knew it would freak you out. But there literally was no movement in her lungs. Like you couldn't see if oxygen was coming in and through her body. There was no movement, which is funny how, like, of course, not being doctors, we didn't even notice.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, she was so lifeless anyway, but we didn't notice that there was no rise and fall on her chest.
Yeah.
So he's like, there is no way that she could have got through the night without oxygen, like there's, like she still was breathing, obviously, and oxygen was moving through her body because they were giving her oxygen. But he was like, I can't believe it. He was amazed.
Yeah. Even talking about that, maybe that's the difference between like happiness and joy. Whereas, you couldn't see that she was breathing. There was no external evidence that she was breathing, but she was breathing on the inside. You just couldn't see it. And I think maybe that's actually the thin line between joy and happiness.
Wow.
And I've known friends and people who have looked happy on the outside and maybe have been happy, but they haven't discovered true joy.
Wow.
And I think it's way more important that we identify the beauty and wonder of joy than what sometimes can be the fleeting facade of happiness.
Wow.
Because happiness can come and go.
Yeah.
And happiness can be our chest, right? The evidence of oxygen coming in and out, but that doesn't deal with the deep core of what's happening on the inside. And I just think we need like a uprising, a revolution of joy, not necessarily happiness.
Yeah.
Because joy is the thing that will sustain us in the long run.
Yeah.
It's joy is the thing that just, even when other people can't see it, it's deep down.
Yeah.
And then the beauty is people get to experience it, or people get to be affected by it in a profound way, because then they see something that they've yet to discover.
Wow.
And it changes them from the inside out, and I think, joy is the deep end, happiness is the shallow end.
Wow. Dang.
I just love the imagery of what is available to all of us, and what do we actually care about? What do we fight for, right? I just don't think we need to spend our time in projecting an image of happiness.
Wow.
And we've had far too many friends that we know have just been drowning in despair.
Yeah.
Trying to act like everything's okay. And I think it's fine to be honest that everything's not okay. Because if you can get rid of the facade of happiness and invite people into the true, authentic story and where you're actually at, then maybe somebody has the joy, the life, the hope that you haven't been able to discover on your own. But the only way you can find it is you have to be close enough to people that can give it to you in the moment that you need it the most.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like not running away from the crisis, right? Because I remember how after that situation in the hospital, and of course now Rocky is doing so well, and she got better within 6 days. They were like, they felt weird checking us out because like, there's no way that this kid could have got better in 6 days. I'm like, well, here she is pulling out her own feeding tube, so I think she's good to go. But that we were grateful, as much as that situation was terrifying beyond belief, we were grateful because of what we got to experience. That we got to experience something far deeper, far greater, just even the sense of like community coming around you. Like that was insane. The type of people, even the fact that people would message, even if we didn't, who knows if I'm sure you try to say thank you to every person who messaged, but even if you didn't, like how much that impacted us. Every message, every hope. When Aaron posted, I think it said fight for Rocky.
Maybe.
Or just said pray for Rocky.
Pray for Rocky.
Pray for Rocky.
Aaron who?
Aaron McManus.
Give a shout out. Give a full
shout out from Aaron McManus, because he posted pray for Rocky, and it was like just on a white background. I don't know why that means something to me, but it was really good. And then what he said afterwards, he was like, sometimes I don't realize the power of prayer, but sometimes I doubt it too. But I'm asking you, if you do believe in the power of prayer, will you pray for me and pray for Rocky? With me to pray for Rocky. And that, like, just seeing our friends coming alongside us was like they all linked arms together.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we got you. We're protecting you. And there was an immense amount of joy that we experienced because we saw true love.
Mm.
Love with our friends, love with even in the doctors and the nurses.
Yeah.
We like got so connected with them. So I'm grateful for those moments. And sometimes maybe that's the hard part, is that when you're hitting a crisis, obviously you don't want a crisis.
Mm.
You want things to be doing great. But it's not until you hit a crisis that you feel and experience great joy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the words of the philosopher Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, joy wouldn't feel so good if it wasn't for pain. You know?
That's a word right there.
He probably stole that from someone else, but it's a great line. But yeah, it is the environment that helps dictate the response.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you can't really find joy if you haven't figured out how to fight for it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I love that there's been moments in our lives when we have crazy mountaintop experiences with so much joy, and life is so full and vibrant.
So good.
And it's beautiful. And there's other moments when there's challenge and conflict and strife and tension, and there's joy found just the same.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the thing with parenting as well, that if it's one thing to tell your kids what they should discover about life, is another thing for them to experience it as they watch you live it out. And you have to like show your kids, don't, avoid the pain, don't avoid the struggle, don't avoid the hardship.
Yeah.
Invite your kids into it, be honest with that, so they can see, oh, this isn't a family that stumbles into good things, but we're a family that fights for good things.
Wow.
And so maybe as we close, if there's somebody listening that's like really trying to find joy, and that's just in the midst of really hardship, or maybe in the midst of like a really great season, what are maybe a couple things that you would advise or counsel someone on? This is one tool or trick that I've used that's helped me find joy in the life that I'm in.
Well, one major thing is telling people, like letting people in.
Mm.
And that, again, when we let people in to know, hey, this is what we're facing, you let people into the mess or into the crisis and not be embarrassed by it or afraid of it. But it's like choosing, hey, this is happening, this is the moment I'm in, this is what I'm facing, and I don't want to be alone. Like maybe that's something even for this Christmas, like just letting people inside of what's happening inside of you.
Yeah.
Because you may not, like what you said before about let's not be let's fight for inner joy and not just pretending to be happy.
Yeah.
We don't need people to pretend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exhausting anyway. So it's like let down your guard, let down the walls. If you're having a tough time, you're having a tough time. And then letting people in. Because then you'll realize, as much as it feels like it's gonna be the worst thing ever to let people know, the moment you do, people rally.
Yep.
And then you watch, I'm not alone. Like, we're not meant to do life alone.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like, even my friend recently went through like a really tough crisis, and it got so bad, like she was hiding it for a long time, but it got so bad that she literally was like, I now have to tell you because I'm literally freaking out. Like now I'm terrified. And I said to her, I was like, I know this feels like the worst day ever this would happen, but maybe this is the best day ever because it was so bad that you had to tell me. You couldn't not tell me because you were literally having a physical reaction towards it.
Sure.
And that's why it's great, because now you're not alone. We can face anything as long as we're not alone.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, the biggest thing is like making sure people know what's happening on the inside, because then you'll find the joy may not be that the circumstances changes instantly, but the joy is found because you realize you have people who love you and are willing to fight for you.
Yeah, it's great. Love that. Yeah. I guess I'll ask myself the same question.
Yes, please ask. I'm asking you.
I'll answer my own question, but yeah, I don't know. First thing that pops in my head is I love connecting things to sports, as you know. But I saw this really interesting clip on last week of the locker room, because one of my favorite moments is when in the locker room after a big win or even sometimes a tough loss, is because you get the raw, real emotions. The press conference after, like my 49ers lost again last night.
Oh, dang, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just been one of those seasons. But this is a little detour, but one of the players, interesting, the big conversation in the post-game press conference of all the players that got to talk to the media was one of the players quit on the team during the game.
What?
Yeah, because some of the media noticed that one of the players went to the locker room. They all assumed that he got injured. So they're asking, yeah, what happened to this player? Like, you know, what injury did he have? And the coach immediately said he quit. We told him to go back in the game, and he said no. And he said, I don't want to play.
Wow.
And the reason is because he had been starting all year.
Yeah.
And then we have an incredible player who got hurt last year in the Super Bowl, and he's been rehabbing to get better. And last night was his first game back. So he went back into the starting lineup, and this guy had to go
benched.
to be a backup. And instead of stepping up, instead of rising above, he quit because it was all about him.
Wow.
But what I thought was interesting, the team lost, and who knows if they could have won if he had played when he was asked, and you know, who knows, but that's not the point. Even though the 49ers lost, even though there hasn't been a great season, this moment could actually be the moment that catalyzes them for next year and beyond. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes hardships reveal who you need to have in your life. Sometimes the struggle weeds the people out who need to be gone, who were
that's good.
Who were the barriers to joy, who were the containers where you couldn't figure out what was off, and one person making one choice affecting the entire culture can shift the whole dynamic. And my hope, because this season's pretty much over, they can't make the playoffs, there's only a few games left, my hope is actually that this situation catalyzes them, bonds them to go, okay, obviously the culture was not representative of what we longed for.
Yep.
And so as terrible as it is, they all spoke out against it. They said, we cannot have somebody standing next to us who would quit on us in the moment we need them the most.
Wow.
And so, you could feel the brotherhood coming together, because it's also a team that two of their players tragically lost their kids in tragic accidents.
Oh, dang.
So the whole dynamic has been shifted. Oh. So it's been tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. You could feel them, injury after injury. You could feel them fighting to have something that unites them. I want to believe that these tragedies and these hardships will finally be the incubator for them to go, this could either cause us to drift apart or cause us to come together. Yeah. And this season may be lost, but what can we build right now that's going to propel us into 2025 and beyond? And maybe that's the same with people listening right now. Maybe you've had the worst year of your life. Yeah. Maybe you've had hardship after hardship, struggle after struggle, tension after tension. Maybe this is just the right environment for you to begin to step into what's coming for you. But you have to decide, will you focus on the negative? Will you focus on the pain? Will you focus on the struggle? Or will you use it as the material to actually birth a joy that goes beyond your circumstances? Yeah. And it lays a foundation for the best year of your life. That's the beauty of life. It's the beauty of hope. It's the beauty of the future. As terrible as things are now, I have to believe that there's a promise of a better future. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna go out swinging, believing that that's waiting for me. I'm gonna do everything I can to create the foundation to experience it today and tomorrow and for years to come.
That's good.
Thank you. You want to wrap us up?
I think we can wrap it up. Well, I hope
Send us home.
Enjoyed this episode.
Enjoyed.
Dad joke.
I got 4 kids. Plenty of dad jokes.
And I hope that as we lead into the joy, and into the Christmas season, I should say, that you find great joy and that you let people in and you tell people how much they mean to you. We hope you loved this episode. Share it with people, with your friends, with your family. And rate us, comment, tell us if you want us to talk about something. We love to hear from you. It really is the coolest thing, having a community that like messages or, just sends us a DM, and we so appreciate it. We love connecting with you. We can't wait for the next episode. Bye.